Take all the trees and put them in a tree museum. Charge the people $1.50 just to see them. You throwing it all away, 'cause you don't know what you got till it's gone. Paint paradise, put up a parking lot. So I think that song is originally by Joni Mitchell, and I've referenced her music a few other times with the song Don't Interrupt the Sorrow and Woodstock. And taking the trees and putting them in a tree museum is exactly what I said I was considering doing when I was out here at my little workbench. And those missionaries came by and they asked me, so what are you going to do with all these trees? You keeping them? You selling them? I said, well, I was thinking about taking them down there to the Springville Art Museum. I said, oh yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. Got a few more little projects in here I'm working on. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd throw these all together. That's my fire lamp. You can take off any one of the hollow pieces and throw it on that table and it kind of does that same effect. And I pulled this fake fire thing out of one of these fake wood burning stoves where it's actually just an electric heater. And it has that light and fan and floppy device inside that simulates a flame. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of the presentation that would be set up at the museum. This one's kind of cool because it looks like a cactus, and it's hollowed all the way out inside to where you can reach up in there, and it's like that all the way through on this one too. So I just thought I'd drop that muse message and draw your attention to the fact that David did say we need to get a cough. And he slipped that in so subtly and then proceeded to explain the sheep herd mentality that would be the vital solution to the equation that we find ourselves in now. And he laid that down 25 years ago. And that was my initial contact with truth. At first it was Greg Braden, where I had a spiritual awakening and shouted from the rooftops and took VHS tapes of Greg Braden to my family in Colorado. My dad replied with that VHS tape of David Icke called The Turning of the Tide, where it's just a basic 101 of truth or conspiracy. Nothing about reptilians or the microchipped population and the end goal agenda of the Illuminati, just the basic pyramid structure of society. And right at the end was the speech that he gave of what is the solution to all of this. And he said, and we need to get a cough. How and why did he slip that in there? I want you guys to check that out again at the beginning of the last video. It's within the first minute or two of his speech. At the very beginning that he says we need to get a cough. Because this cough is expediting that herd mentality, exacerbating and amplifying it to the point where we will do away with it. The best way to get rid of a bad law is to strictly enforce it. So was that the muse that plants these messages in songs like what Joni Mitchell did? Take all the trees, put them in a tree museum, charge the people $1.50 just to see them. That's what I was telling you in my last video, that these are a valuable resource that will be worth something whenever we decide what money is after the controlled demolition of the economy that we're currently in. Because all wealth is knowledge and all economic growth is learning. And these are science, art, and history all wrapped in one. And they are a perishable item. Just like food that rots in your fridge, these pieces of wood are rotting in the woods around you. And even the little ones, the smaller ones, are actually just as cool as the big ones. You notice this one does a corkscrew to the point where from right here You can see the top of the burn line there and the top of the burn line here. And it actually goes through and does a full 360 corkscrew through the piece of wood. Take all the trees, put them in a tree museum, charge the people $1.50 just to see them. That's exactly what I was saying in my last video. And so why did David Icke say we need to get a cough? Did he know all those years in advance that this was coming? And that this cough would exacerbate that sheep mentality that turns this prison into a paradise once we decide to throw it off of our shoulders and say no more and express our uniqueness? And quit being the self-policing society that we are and enforcing these norms of the hassle-free zone? And did he know that it would be a cough that wedged us out of that hassle-free zone in this collective initiation that we're going through? I want to talk more about that in an upcoming video. But I want you guys to think about it and watch that video again. That was the final 10-minute speech that he gave, and right as he launches into the solution of the complex equation that we find ourselves in now, and he so eloquently, in great detail, explains the herd collective conformity dynamic and the solution. He says we need to get a cough. Is this some sort of phrase in Britain that I don't know about? Because unless someone can explain, oh no, in Britain we need to get a cough means that we need to start flailing around and break free from this herd mentality somehow, because one seemingly has nothing to do with the other until you see what we're going through now. And then it relates to everything he is saying perfectly. By the way, my dad gave me that video called Turning of the Tide, the Basic 101 David Icke for Beginners. 22 years ago. It was produced in 96, and I think I got it in the year 99 or 2000. It was before 2001. That he sent me that in return and said, oh no, I just looking through, like you gave me the Greg Braden videos, Laura Lee Press. I started there, and one search led me to another, and I stumbled upon this video. So I sent you the VHS tape after I ordered it and watched it myself and thought, that's interesting. Interesting? 20 some odd years later, I find the microchip behind my ear and my sister's ear, and at the time he already knew that we were microchipped, and David's ultimate end goal of the Illuminati is, of course, one world government, one world currency, one world religion, and a microchipped population. You think my dad just stumbled upon that? Do you think he knew that this is the next leg of your investigative journey now that you've been awakened by Greg Braden? Here, have some David Icke. And he gave me the Beginner 101 video that says nothing about reptilian or microchipped people. Do you think when David Icke slipped that we need to get a cough into his speech, that was the spirit working through him? Was it the spirit working through my dad? Sometimes these people don't even realize what they're saying. And the muse messages come through regular speech of other people sometimes. But the fact that David Icke video says we need to get a cough at the beginning of his final speech in that video of Turning of the Tide that I received 20 some odd years ago shows that this whole thing is one long-term coincidence or synchronicity over the course of 25 years. I later find my microchip, and then we're in the midst of this getting a cough scenario that will free us from that sheep mentality and turn this prison into a paradise. That's a very long-term coincidence. And once we see that they plant these messages in movies and music in the past for things that happen in the present or the future, we see that they work outside of time. And that's the next level of grasping of this concept of muse messages and truth drops in movies and songs. That leads Joni Mitchell to say, take all the trees and put them in a tree museum. She came from that group of artists in Laurel Canyon, where Jim Morrison and others came from, And statistically, the number of artists that came from Laurel Canyon in that time who reached the top of the charts is impossible unless something was going on there, like alien contact. Some people say MK Ultra, mind control, the Illuminati put those guys out, whatever it was. Something happened in Laurel Canyon that caused many of these artists to embed many of these messages into their music. So all you need is some scrubbies and water and a handsaw, and you can start taking all the trees and making up your own tree museum. Hopefully it's not all the trees, and there's some that are left growing, but these definitely will belong in some sort of a museum. So hurry before they rot. This one isn't lacquered yet. This is one of the ones I just got. And I've got about 13 pieces within the last month that I need to lacquer. So I'm gonna go buy a big sprayer or go get my buddy at his cabinet shop to spray them up for me real quick. That's cool because you can see the charcoal in the background there at the bottom, behind the flame. Huh? Pretty cool. And the big hole back here is putting out some light. Turn them around. Flameage. Tell me that ain't a cool thing to offer God when God shows up for the USS Enterprise. Plasma wood lamps. You'd be like, yeah, maybe I'll give you a ticket to ride for a plasma wood lamp.